Hello, passengers, co-pilots, shotgun callers, blunderbuss bellowers, and midnight riders. Welcome to another episode of Full Moon Empty Road. As always, I'm Jeremy, and I'll be your driver tonight. Hope everyone had a great week, and I hope you're ready for another road trip. We're staying home tonight and taking a short drive and headed to the Chickamauga Battlefield. So get in, buckle up, grab the rock salt, and let's ride. We have work to do. And while we're headed there, I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to everyone for checking out today's episode. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you can find me at the following places: FMER Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, Full Moon Empty RD on Twitter, and Full Moon Empty Road on TikTok. If you have any suggestions that you'd like to send me, you can drop me a line at my email. That is fullmoonemptyroad@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast, listener support is on Spotify and Spotify for Podcasters. You can also head over to Bonfire and pick up a shirt, or you can buy me a coffee. All links are in the About section on YouTube. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and really appreciate having y'all here on this road trip. Well, it looks like we're here. Let's go check out the battlefield. The Chickamauga Battlefield, also known as Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park, located in southeast Tennessee and North Georgia, it preserves the location of two major battles that took place during the Civil War. The Battle of Chickamauga and the Siege of Chattanooga. Its history dates back a little over 130 years ago in 1890. It was one of the four first military parks, along with Shiloh, Gettysburg, and Vicksburg. Being the first and largest military park, it became the basis for development of the other three. It was officially dedicated in September of 1895. It owes its existence chiefly to the efforts of Generals Henry V. Boynton and Ferdinand Vanderveer, both veterans of the Union Army of the Cumberland, who saw the need for a federal park and to preserve and commemorate these battlefields. Another early proponent and driving force behind the park's creation was Ohio General Henry M. Sist, who led the Chickamauga Memorial Society in 1888. Franklin Guest Smith, a former Union officer still on active duty, served as secretary and member of the Board of Commissioners from 1893 until his 1903 military retirement, and he served in the same role as a civilian until 1908. Another former Union officer, Charles H. Grosvenor, was chairman of the Park Commission from 1910 until his death in 1917. During the park's early years, it was managed by the War Department and used for military study as well as a memorial. The National Park Service took over the site management in 1933. It also saw use during the Spanish-American War. The newly created Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park was utilized during the Spanish-American War as a major training center for troops in the southern states. The park was temporarily renamed Camp George H. Thomas in honor of the Union Army commander during the Civil War battle at the site. The park's proximity to the major rail hub at Chattanooga and its large tracts of land made it a logical marshaling area for troops being readied for service in Cuba and other ports south. The military park consists of four main areas and a few small isolated reservations around Chattanooga. Those four are Chickamauga Battlefield, Missionary Ridge, Lookout Mountain Battlefield and Point Park, and Moccasin Bend. On October 15th, 1966, as with all historic areas already administered by the National Park Service, the military park was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. On February 20th, 2003, Public Law Number 108-7 added Moccasin Bend as a new unit of the park. Moccasin Bend Archaeological District, designated as a National Historic Landmark on September 8, 1986, is directly across the Tennessee River from Lookout Mountain. It is significant due to its archaeological resources of American Indian settlements. There are currently minimal visitor services at Moccasin Bend, including 2 hiking trails. That's the Blue Blazes Trail and the Browns Ferry Road, and a 10-acre meadow. Each of these areas is open to the public. The park anticipates further development, land restoration, and visitor services in the years to come. Now, before we move into the hauntings of the Chickamauga Battlefield, we're going to take a little look at the Chickamauga Campaign. The Chickamauga Campaign of the American Civil War was a series of battles fought in northwestern Georgia from August 21st to September 20th, 1863, between the Union Army of the Cumberland and the Confederate Army of Tennessee. The campaign started successfully for Union Commander William S. Rosecrans, with the Union Army occupying the vital city of Chattanooga and forcing the Confederates to retreat into northern Georgia. But a Confederate attack at the Battle of Chickamauga forced Rosecrans to retreat back into Chattanooga and allowed the Confederates to lay siege to Union forces. August 21st, 1863. Rosecrans ordered a brigade to shell Chattanooga from the western side of the Tennessee River and skirmish with the main Confederate force in the city to divert attention away from the flanking column sent southwest of the city. Other Union units were deployed along the river to the east. The diversion was successful, with Bragg concentrating his army east of Chattanooga. After concluding that his position was untenable, Bragg abandoned the city on September 6th and retreated into northern Georgia. September 10th and 11th, 1863. Bragg intended to attack General James S. Negley's isolated division of the Union 14 Corps, commanded by George H. Thomas, before Rosecrans could concentrate the rest of his army at that location. He ordered the divisions of Thomas Hinman and Patrick Claiborne to concentrate together and launch a joint attack under Hinman's command. Due to delays in conveying orders, Claiborne's division failed to arrive in time on the 10th, while Thomas reinforced the isolated division with the rest of his corps. After the 2 divisions were united the next day, they failed to launch a coordinated attack on Thomas's position and were repulsed. September 19th and 20th, 1863. Believing that Thomas L. Crittenden's 21 Corps were isolated from the rest of the Union Army, Bragg ordered his army to concentrate near Lee's and Gordon's Mills. However, Rosecrans had been concentrating his army along Chickamauga Creek. Detachments from Thomas's corps and Confederate cavalry collided on September 19th, with both commanders feeding reinforcements into the engagement. The day ended without a clear victory by either side. The next day, Bragg ordered attacks in an echelon formation, starting with the left flank at dawn, but Polk, commanding the Confederate left wing, failed to properly supervise his command. The attacks began 4 hours late and failed to dislodge the Union Army from its positions. Shortly after 11 a.m., an attack by Longstreet's corps struck a gap in the Union line, routing most of the Union Army. Thomas formed his corps on Snodgrass Hill and held off further Confederate attacks for the remainder of the afternoon before retreating back to Chattanooga near sundown. Rosecrans retreated into Chattanooga after the Battle of Chickamauga. Reinforcements were sent from the Army of the Tennessee and the Army of the Potomac. Both Crittenden and Alexander McCook, commander of the 20th Corps, were replaced on September 28th for alleged misconduct at Chickamauga, although they were both cleared of the charge. U.S. Grant, recently made commander of the Military Division of the Mississippi and placed in command of the Union forces near Chattanooga, decided to replace Rosecrans with Thomas on October 19th. At the time of the Chickamauga, the Army of Tennessee was suffering from a shortage of food and of wagons to transport supplies. It also lacked pontoon bridges to cross the Tennessee River. Bragg consequently decided to lay siege to the Union Army. The Confederates occupied Missionary Ridge and spread a picket line along the south bank of the river towards Alabama. Fire from Confederate sharpshooters prevented supply wagons from reaching Chattanooga. So that more or less covers the battle, the Chickamauga battle. So from there, we are going to move into the ghosts of the Chickamauga Battlefield. As mentioned earlier, the life of the battlefield dates back to the 1860s and saw it start during one of the bloodiest times in American history. The following information comes from yesterdaysamerica.com. The first apparition we're going to cover that is seen is known as the Lady in White. She is believed to be the wife of a soldier who fell in battle, and she is seen roaming the battlefield at all hours, day and night. Dressed in a white flowing dress, she's seen wandering the graves and battlefield before slipping into the woods out of sight. Another apparition seen is that of a headless horseman. Reports vary on this particular spirit, but it's collectively believed to be Lieutenant Colonel Julius Goresh. He was killed in battle by a cannonball, and it is said that a group of horses ran through the field, squashing his head and dragging it several yards. Visitors report seeing a mysterious headless figure on horseback galloping through the woods at night. Now, interestingly, Lieutenant Colonel Goresh was killed during the Battle of Stones River near Murfreesboro, not Chickamauga. So, I don't know, maybe he traveled a little bit in the afterlife, continue riding, I don't know. Other reports include people seeing flickering lights off in the distance, believed to be lanterns carried by the long-dead wives and lovers of soldiers out searching for their fallen soldiers after the battle. Nearby residents report hearing gunshots, moaning, crying, and rhythmic marching throughout the night. In 1960, reports circulated of a man who climbed the 85-foot Wilder Tower and fell inside. The man reported that he believed he was jumping out of the tower from a ground-level window, but actually fell roughly 25 feet. That accident left him paralyzed. And last but not least, and the most famous sighting, Old Green Eyes. Stories say he was a Confederate soldier who had his head blown off by a cannonball during the war. His head was buried without his body, and it's believed that his spirit now searches the battlefield looking for his body. Others tend to think that this isn't, in fact, a slain soldier, but rather a beastly being who haunted the grounds long before it was ever scarred by war. And that is going to pretty much cover the Chickamauga Battlefield. This is one that from the time I started this podcast, it's been requested numerous times. You know, I live just outside the Chattanooga area and work in Chattanooga, and you know, a lot of people around are like, "Why don't you cover Chickamauga?" You know, so here I am covering Chickamauga, and honestly, one of the main reasons, because I've never been to the Chickamauga Battlefield, even though I live right up the road from it. I need to actually go check the place out sometime. Maybe make a trip with the old ball and chain and the kids one day. But you know, I've never checked it out, so it's like I don't know if I want to cover it without having ever been. I cover numerous places, having never been there, but this is one of those that's, you know, a stone's throw away. So it's one I could actually go visit. But I was like, you know, maybe I should visit it before I actually do anything on it. But I mean, I actually have a short story that I found that I think would tie in pretty well with the Chickamauga Battlefield scene. So I was like, well, since I've got that one recorded, I'll go ahead and do a battlefield this week. So here we are, Chickamauga Battlefield, and hope you guys have enjoyed the episode today. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate everybody showing up today and checking out the episode. Again, you can find me on social media, FMER Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, Full Moon Empty Road on TikTok, and Full Moon Empty RD on Twitter. If you have an episode to suggest, well, like a haunted location, haunted something, cursed objects, haunted highway, stuff like that. If you've got anything you want to suggest, aside from those places, you can also, as I said earlier in the episode, reach out to me at my email, which is fullmoonemptyroad@gmail.com. And hope you've all enjoyed today's episode, but I think we're done today, so let's go home.